Welcome back to Choco Zone Podcast. We are still in Indonesia and this is our last stop in this amazing country for this edition. After Java and Sumatra, this time we are in the most famous touristic place of Indonesia, Bali, where there is another bean-to-bar chocolate maker that works with farmers and that makes a great quantity of chocolate with different inclusions. Tourism and chocolate, farmers and chocolate makers. This is the best match to write another chapter of the magic story of chocolate. Hello guys, welcome back to Chocozone, the fourth chapter of Chocozone dedicated to Indonesia. After Yogya and Sumatra, we are in the amazing Bali, and here we are with Toby Garritt, owner of Paul Chocolates. Hello Toby, how are you?
Hi, Toby.
Hey, Umberto, Giuseppe, very good, thanks. I hope you're all both well.
Okay. Normally we ask to our guests to introduce themselves, so this is your time, please.
Sure, thanks very much. Well, my name's Toby. I started Pod Chocolate about 10 years ago here in my adopted home of Bali, Indonesia. I first started making chocolate in 2010, and I was inspired by the many cacao farms that not just in Bali but across Indonesia. And in speaking with the farmers, I realized that there was no premium chocolate or bean-to-bar chocolate being produced, especially here in Bali. And so I decided to try to make chocolate. It was initially not an idea I had for a business, but just a personal project to see why is no one making chocolate here. And it had a lot of challenges at the beginning, particularly with regards to the quality and consistency of the beans. The farmers were traditionally getting a very low price for the cacao beans. And I realized very early on that in order for us to be successful in making great chocolate, we needed the farmers to also be successful and feel successful as the cacao farmers. So over the years, we developed our processes and techniques, not just in chocolate making, but also in how we work together with farmers to ensure a consistent high quality of fermented cacao beans. And over time, we were able to find, the right recipe for the chocolate, but also our relationships with the farmers and the communities. And from there, the business really grew quite a lot. From building our first custom-built factory in 2012, we then built our second, much larger factory in 2017. And it's there we're fortunate to have a number of your machines, which help us make some of the best chocolate in the world.
Good. But Bali is known to be an amazing place for tourism. I guess you are now a little suffering from the situation. And I know that you had also a family business there. Can you tell us something more about it?
Well, I mean, my Balinese family have their own tourism business. For myself, I'm fully focused into Pod Chocolate, and yeah, I mean, being in Bali, the economy is almost 100% reliant on tourism. So it's been a very challenging past year for sure. I mean, we've been through various different challenges here in the past, but this is certainly the biggest. But it's a challenge that we're not facing alone. The whole world is facing this crisis, and I think it's a really important time that we can look inwards and see what's important for us to be doing, both as businesses and also individuals. Why do we do what we do? And how can we, use our businesses to not just create, a financial success, but also create a model of business that supports communities and farmers, and also the teams that we have working for us. So it's tough, but we're quite fortunate because we have a product that we can sell outside of Bali. Certainly, hotels and businesses that rely 100% on tourism have been, severely impacted. But we're quite fortunate because we have here in Indonesia, we have quite a strong online community, and I think our online community is really responsible for helping us get through this time. So I'm really grateful for everyone who goes into a supermarket or to our online store and buys a bar of hot chocolate. They're really helping us to continue our story of making great chocolate from local farmers.
Back to the chocolate, what is your background on it? I know that Indonesia, in Indonesia there are the chocolate to drink. There are a lot of compound, and the commercial chocolate is a little quantity, and then there is also the bean to bar. What is your background? How did you start? How so difficult? It was so difficult to to teach to the customers the differences. Tell us something about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my educational background is in hotel management and restaurants. So I've studied with the Swiss Hotels Association and Le Cordon Bleu at their school in Australia. But that really didn't prepare me for making chocolate. It prepared me for working with chocolate, but not actually making chocolate from scratch. And I think that's something that, not just in Indonesia, but around the world, people don't quite understand the difference between making chocolate and working with chocolate. So when I started making chocolate, sort of bean to bar or tree to bar 10 years ago, there wasn't really any online resources like there is today. Today you can learn a lot from YouTube, but 10 years ago there really wasn't that type of resource. So I sort of self-taught. I understood the principle behind chocolate making. I knew that you had to roast and winnow the bean. I didn't know about roasting profiles or developing the recipes. So it was really a lot of trial and error, and then working with a lot of chefs here on the island, giving them the chocolate, saying how does this work for you? How is the fluidity? How is the flavor profile? That was really the process. So it was, I guess you could say, it was kind of an organic process of learning. And because I did it all from scratch, I think I feel I got a real relationship with the bean and the process that maybe I wouldn't have had if I did a course or went to your factory and sort of learned directly and more quickly. It would have been more efficient. But it was the only way I could do it at the time. Because you're right, in Indonesia, there's huge amounts of cocoa processing, but there's a very big difference between cocoa processing and chocolate making, and then there's another big difference between commercial chocolate making or large-scale chocolate making, and then craft chocolate making or bean-to-bar chocolate making. So I think on the one hand, the process side, what we're doing was something very much new for the country. And then in terms of educating consumers, people didn't know really what couverture chocolate was and why couverture chocolate was more expensive than compound chocolate. So there was a lot of education that we needed to do for the domestic market that, in countries like Europe or Australia, where I'm originally from, fine chocolate, it's something that growing up, there's the expensive chocolate and there's the cheap chocolate. But here there really wasn't the expensive chocolate. There was local chocolate and imported chocolate. And so we were making something that wasn't as expensive as the imported chocolate because we could produce it locally, but then it's a lot more expensive than a local compound chocolate. So it was a bit of a challenge, but I think, it's when we're educating our consumers, we have an opportunity to create very loyal consumers. because we have a process of learning that we're doing together. But certainly it's very different here than in a country that has an established premium chocolate market, let alone a bean-to-bar chocolate market, where you're again trying to differentiate the product from being a premium product or a couverture chocolate to something that has an additional story by being bean-to-bar or tree-to-bar.
I know you have a big window where all the tourists could see your chocolate factory while you are working. What is the main process that the tourists like, or I can say, what is the window more dirty at the end of the day because the people stay there with the head?
Yeah, there's a lot of fingerprints and face prints on the windows. Because learning to make chocolate was such an important experience for my life, I wanted to share that with people. I didn't want to have a big concrete box that people wouldn't see what's inside. So I wanted to share the process. And I also wanted to share my love of machines because, the most expensive things I own are chocolate machines. I love the functionality. I love the form. And so I wanted to share, something that I'm really proud of. At our factory, people can see the roasting. So we have the roasting and winnowing set up as a station. And then we have the chocolate making room where we have our rumbos. We have our other machinery in there as well. So people can see that. And I think for me, the rumbos are very special. I fell in love with that machine the first time I saw it when we met in Jakarta, because they remind me of my first machine that I had, which was a very small stone grinder. And people love them because, when you look at our ball mill, you don't see anything happening. But when you look in the rumbo, you see the wheels moving. And I think that's the real magic of chocolate making for me. And then, of course, we take that from the chocolate making room. We have our chocolate molding room. And in the molding room, we have our tempering machines. We have a wheel machine. But I think the most magical machine for me would be the spinning machine, because I think people, even me when I was growing up, you take Easter eggs for granted and you take hollow figures for granted. But when you see how they're being made, it's like, wow.
It's not a chicken. It's not a chicken making Easter egg.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else. And, I've been working in chocolate for 10 years, but still every time we use that machine, I sort of stop and look. And I think that machine is probably the one that has people sort of glued against the glass the most. And, the other thing is that having windows in our factory, it really makes us accountable to very high standards of hygiene, because we know that people can look in at any time. It's something that I love to do. But for sure, the first thing that happens every morning is that the windows get cleaned, and they get dirtier on the outside, not the inside. It's the outside where people are looking in that it gets the most dirty.
On the other side of the process, so when you start your production, your relationship with the cocoa farmers, okay, do you have which kind of relationship do you have with them? I mean, you explain to them how to make the process with the cocoa, how to dry the fermentation, or it's something that you completely trust in them? And do you get the beans from different, maybe plantation with different fermentation processes? How does it work?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, we have a process, a couple of different types of relationships with farmers. Because we started very, very small, we started working with individual farmers. The business started with one farmer, or it's a family. And this family had about half a hectare, and the farm was in a terrible state. It was full of pests. It was, really bad. And so they were our first farm, and we said, okay, let's work together. Let's see what the potential of the farm is, using organic processes to try and maximize the yield of the farm. And our goal, it always starts with making a healthy farm. I have worked many years with agronomists and farm experts, but walking into a farm whether it's healthy or not, and based on that, whether there's a potential for a good harvest and for it to be profitable with the farmers. So to start with, we worked with individual farmers. We provided fermentation boxes. We provided training on how to ferment. We developed the fermentation profile, because when we started, there was a standard that farmers would ferment for 8 days, but no one really knew whether that was good or not because no one was making chocolate. So we wanted to make the process as efficient as possible. So we did trials ranging from 3 days all the way to 10 days to see, what the best flavor profile would develop. From there we have a number of individual farmers who would bring us their beans, and we know that they're working to our standards. And if they have problems or challenges in the farms, they can come to us, and we can work together to find solutions. Then we also, as we grew, we started to work more with the farmer cooperatives because our demand was increasing. At the beginning, someone would have 5 kilos of beans or 10 kilos of beans. We would buy the beans. Working with cooperatives, as our scale increases, we, wanted to work more efficiently. So when we work with the cooperatives, they have a structure in place. We develop the standards together. And then the key is that once we have a standard in place, we make sure that it's consistent. So as consistent as possible, really realizing that there's a difference when you're looking at bean to bar chocolate consistency. You'd maybe be looking more at consistency per harvest, or making sure that the character of the bean is being expressed, in the right way. Whereas I think when you go to very large scale, then you might work towards consistency by higher roasting profiles, or other things that would give you more consistency, but maybe less character. Mm. So, I think it's always the balance of consistency and character, but that comes through ensuring that there are good systems in place, and that the systems are clearly understood by the farmers, and also, what the dynamic is with the farmers, whether typically you have husbands and wives are working in the as part of the process. So making sure that everyone is involved and participating and understands.
Do you think there is a difference in this kind of relationship between a bean-to-bar chocolate maker with a cocoa farmer and a big company chocolate making with a cocoa farmer?
Yeah, our requirements are very different. I think that there's a more system of brokers could be involved when you're looking at larger scale. Our smallest batch size, when we're doing trial batches, we could be producing 10 kilos of chocolate. In our largest machine, our smallest batch size is 250 kilos. So we can work with a lot smaller volumes than a large scale producer. And it enables us to form direct relationships with cooperatives and farmers that might not be cost effective for a larger manufacturer. So, the dynamic changes when the scale changes, for sure. Larger producers might have a minimum batch size of 2 tons, 5 tons, or even more. And then when you go from batch processing to continuous processing, it changes the dynamic yet again. So, I think that there's a market for both types of chocolate. It's not to say that commercial chocolate is bad and craft chocolate is good. It's just that they're different. And I think for craft chocolate, we have more creative potential. But then when you go up to very high volumes, the customer expects their sort of chocolate bar to taste the same every time. And so that creates a whole set of different requirements that a large scale producer would have to adhere to. Plus, as much as we all love craft chocolate, not everyone is prepared to pay the higher price for craft chocolate.
Yeah.
So, it's all about addressing different parts of the market, I think.
Yeah.
But do you think that the bean to bar chocolate could be more fruity, more how to say, with more flavor, respect to the industrial chocolate, or not? Do you think that it is more or less quite the same?
Well, I think you could look at it from a couple of ways. When we have the beans come in, I think typically a craft chocolate maker is going to be really passionate about what they do. I don't think that you go into this business of making craft chocolate without a love and a passion on the processing side or on the farm side or on just the sheer magic of being able to take a strange and wonderful fruit and turn it into a chocolate bar. You've got to be passionate. You've got to be a little bit crazy. And I think as a craft chocolate maker, we have the potential to really celebrate the different flavors that exist within chocolate. We can look at a smaller region and say, okay, this chocolate really has character. How do we bring out that character? And I think that the large scale chocolate, they don't have the potential to do that because they're getting chocolate from multiple regions. They're maybe getting high quality beans and low quality beans. They may be doing some blending. And I think they're in less of a position to be able to celebrate the unique flavor profiles that exist in chocolate. And certainly when you look at the scale that we operate at and that your machinery caters for, we're really able to say, or at least what we say is, what's the character of this bean? What is it telling me? And how do I express that character in our chocolate bar? And so it's a different type of creative vision, I think, that you have between very large scale and the sort of scale that we're at. The question is, where is it going in the future, and what happens to the market when they become more educated? Is that going to impact the large scale operators to develop their own craft brands, or is it going to enable craft brands to achieve a greater scale to maybe be more in competition with the larger operators? And only time will tell.
Yeah. Can you tell us how many bars can you produce now? I mean, different flavors and recipe?
A lot.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, one of the things is that I can't stop creating new products. And so right now we have that we sell. We have 23 different varieties of chocolate bars. And at any given time, right now we've got maybe 5 or 6 different bars in development. And that's not including the single origins.
And which is the best seller?
Well, I think a consistent top seller would be our 80% extra dark chocolate. I think it's a very unique chocolate because it's quite high in the percentage of cacao, and yet because of the roasting profile, because of the quality of the beans, it's really buttery smooth and doesn't have the bitterness that people would expect from maybe a commercial large scale 80% dark chocolate. So people are really that would be one of our consistent top sellers. And then on the sweeter side, all of our milk chocolate is actually plant-based milk chocolate, so we're fully dairy-free. So we have what we call our non-dairy milk chocolate, and there, consistently our honeycomb is a real popular flavor. But we have so many flavors that it's pretty evenly distributed across the range. Which is frustrating because what I really want is to have, top 5 products so I can start cutting out products and then introducing new ones. But every time I cut out a product, we always get people complaining on Instagram,
Yes,
or sending us
people.
emails saying, how could you stop that chocolate? It's my favorite one. So yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's hard to keep everybody happy.
And how do you teach to your customer to appreciate your production? How do you launch the new flavors? What is your marketing system?
Mhm. Well, often how we develop new flavors is more from the farm side. So when we're working with communities and we see potential to support communities, um, then we'll do it based on an ingredient. So we have bars where maybe we're working with cashew farmers, and we see they have potential for another product like rosella flowers, for example, and then we'll work with them to develop a chocolate bar for that product. So we're always saying to the farmers, what else can you do? What else do you have here? Because we're happy to make a chocolate bar out of it. And often we find that when we do that, the communities can use that chocolate bar to promote their product, like the rosella flowers, to other people and for other purposes. And we're really happy to do that. Um, and normally it's not a very in-depth process. We have trying different flavors with customers. We'd normally start at our factory. We get feedback from people directly. But often, when we're working with new flavors, we'll just make a small run of the bar, see how it goes, and if people like it, we'll keep making it, and if not, then we'll retire that recipe and maybe just use it as a learning thing.
Do you think that the bean to bar chocolate makers needs to stick with the bars production, or can they just improve their productivity and the variety of the products? I mean, pralines or panning. Are you planning to develop new products?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have one of your panning machines, and we do have pan products as well. When I started the business, we produced quite an extensive range of pralines, but we faced a couple of challenges here. People aren't accustomed to pralines and truffles as a product in Indonesia, so it wasn't something that was easy for us to communicate on the whole to the market. The other aspect is that with a 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter thin chocolate shell and tropical heat, they would melt super easily, and so it would be very difficult, particularly people buying them in our stores and then leaving them in the car or going for a drive. It was something we found that they didn't work quite so well for us, and not as much as I'd initially expected. But pan products is a different story. So we have some pan products, and we're actually developing some new pan products now, and I think they're more readily acceptable by our market here in Indonesia. And I guess the other thing that we found with pralines is that for us, the very best pralines would have maybe a 2-day shelf life. Really nice pralines would maybe have a 1-week shelf life. But if we're working with resellers or supermarkets or other stores, they want really long shelf lives, at least 6 months. And we couldn't do that without adding additives or preservatives to our product. I know you can work with sugar alcohols, but they're not so readily available here. And so we decided to focus sort of more on our core products. That being said, if I was somewhere cold, or if I was somewhere that had winter, for sure I would be producing more pralines and truffles, for sure.
And basically, the main flavor of the pralines is the filling, it's not the chocolate. So the bean to bar chocolate maker wants to highlight the feature of the cocoa, or the bean, or the chocolate. So probably pralines is a little misleading.
Maybe. I mean, it depends a lot on your market. I think if you're looking at ways to value add an expensive ingredient, which is going to be the cacao bean, I think pralines and pan products are a great idea. I mean, if you look at it from the business perspective, and they also, particularly on the pan products, could be more of something that you snack on. Whereas maybe a chocolate bar, you're not always snacking on a premium 80% cacao chocolate bar. So I think it makes sense. Maybe, it depends on the chocolate maker as well. I mean, I see some people are really, really purist about what they do and they don't want to be introducing other ingredients. Whereas other chocolate makers I see are super creative and they're putting all sorts of stuff into.
Yeah, but also you. I remember you have a lot of chocolate bars with inclusions like coconut, like. Yeah, I remember in your shop you have a lot of different colors, and behind there is each color is a different inclusion inside. So it is really very, very creative. Yeah. we have quite finished, and like to everybody, I asked to you this question: how do you see both chocolate within the next 10 years, and how do you see the bean to bar or tree to bar movement in the world within the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think right now looking at anything in the next 10 years is a pretty tough question. We're sort of wondering what are we going to look like in the next 10 months.
Yeah. We have to be positive and not with COVID, but we must be positive about this pandemic fall down in a few months, so everything come back in a normal way, sure.
For sure. I mean, the good thing is that people love chocolate, and pandemic, no pandemic, chocolate is going to be one of people's favorite foods, favorite products. So I mean, for us, this past year has been a real learning experience. We're consolidating our product range. We're really focusing on our being as efficient as possible. And our goal for the future is not just to be a brand about chocolate, but to be a brand about sustainability and creating a premium product from the ground up, from the ground up, from communities, from farms, and to be, presenting a premium chocolate from, a country that I think a lot of people still don't know much about in terms of the chocolate and cacao industry. Indonesian chocolate, I think, is there's more and more companies making Indonesian chocolate, but I think it's Indonesia as a brand in itself is something that we really want to be behind and to be growing over the next 10 years. I think that we see ourselves as one of the spokespeople for Indonesian cacao, and we'd like to bring our chocolate to more countries in the world and introduce people to the flavors that we have here in Indonesia. In terms of the industry, I mean, I think it's entering maybe the second stage. I think the first stage is the past 10 years where you have companies starting to make chocolate, like Dandelion and Manoa, a couple of companies that started around the same time of us, and we're starting to mature. And when you have companies that are maturing, you have newer companies who are looking at us as examples of what they can do. And so I think that's starting a lot of younger, more creative companies who maybe have a shortcut to the learning process that the older companies had. And I think that's a good thing for both, because it drives companies like us to be more creative and to really try and understand what our vision is and where do we want to go in terms of scale. Authentic and driven story, then that'd be an exciting 10 years. And if during that 10 years we get to add a lot more of your machinery, then I think we'll all be very happy.
Okay, Toby, thank you very much for your time. It has been really interesting, this conversation. And I hope that the pandemic go away so soon, so that people could come back in Bali and eat a great chocolate from you.
Yeah, sure. Umberto Giuseppe, it's been my pleasure. It's great, and to everybody out there who's making chocolate, well done. You're doing something that is just incredible, and never forget the magic of what you do, because every time we have people come into our factory and they see this transformation from the cocoa pod into a chocolate bar, it truly is something special, and I think we're all privileged to be a part of this industry.
Yeah, that's the best message that you can leave. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank
All
you.
the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.